And a very good afternoon. It's 10 to 3 on Friday afternoon. And just for a change, I thought I'd put a video up for Saturdays because we've got Sundays racing as well at Newbury. And obviously, I don't do any daily punt on a Sunday or anything along those sort of lines. So I thought I'd put a video up, just sort of go over my thoughts on there. I'll keep it fairly brief because obviously, we're going to be a little bit pushed for time if we're doing 2 days worth of work. Good cards tomorrow, and Newbury's cards held up pretty well. I think actually it's an interesting card. Ascot tomorrow. I'll be at Haydock, all being well. Looking forward to that. Hopefully learn a few things. And you've got Wincanton as well. So there's plenty to get stuck into. Ascot, well, I'll concentrate mainly on the TV races. Ascot the 150, the Reynoldstown Chase. Both myself and after I spoke to my colleague Mr. Delagi this morning, are in agreement that the machine is worth another go after a wind up for Kerry Lee. Go back and watch the video of him winning around Uttoxeter and Ascot. It's his jumping that marks him out as a really sort of smart horse. And even though it didn't go right for him at Newbury last time, he still ran a really good race actually. Not a million miles below what he did at Ascot. And if they thought then that he didn't run his race because of his wind, you'd expect him to improve a little bit. Kerry Lee's got a very good record with wind-ups, winning first time after a wind-up. I think the average is about 1 in 9, 1 in 10, and Kerry's are about twice that, 1 in 3, 1 in 4. Her average is between the two. So with that, the fact that it's had the wind-up, got the tongue tie, ground, no problem. We know the machine goes well at Ascot. Thought 5 to 1 just looks a fairly big price. I know it's an open race, it's through the field, but I wouldn't have Severano as favourite, I have to say. He's finished behind the machine there, and I don't see why he's going to reverse the placing. I really don't. 3 to 1 looks wrong to me. So the 5 to 1 machine, well worth taking. Then we got first of a couple of very tricky handicaps. 3 mile handicap chase you can give plenties to. Needless to say, Jerry's Back has come sort of top of my list really after we put him up at Ascot for his comeback because he has gone well fresh before, and it was a very, very eye-catching run that. Behind Dash or Drasher, Richard Johnson was by no means all out on him after the last. He's sort of pushing with one hand and the other hand's not really doing a great lot, and I thought he was kind to the horse, shall we say, and there's definitely more to come from Jerry's Back off the back of that. As long as he doesn't bounce here, he's had a month to get over it. Trip and ground ideal again. He's building up quite a nice Ascot record for himself now. Actually, seems to really enjoy the track. He's got to have an obvious chance, but he's 4 to 1 now. When I first looked at the race yesterday, he was around about 13 to 2. Now, if you got the 13 to 2, great, good luck to you. But I won't bet him at 4s. I think there are others in the race that have got a chance. Musical Slaves, obviously one. We put him up for the Sky Bet. He's unseated his rider there, but this is a workable mark, I think, for Musical Slave, and some of his form from last season reached pretty well. And the other one at a whopping price is Sub Lieutenant. He's going to just keep drifting because he's a 12-year-old that's fully exposed, but his last 2 runs, at Galway for Henry de Bromhead last July, and then he first run for Georgie Howell, and he finished within 10 lengths of Mr. Malarkey over course and distance in December. Now that was his first one for 5 months. You'd expect him to come on a little bit for that, if anything, even though the fact he is a 12-year-old, but he's clearly capable of still mixing it at this sort of good handicap level. He might not be the grade 1 performer that he might have been any longer, but he's still capable. Presumably all roads will lead to Aintree for him again. He was second to Cadmium in the Topham there back in 2019, and that's, I'm guessing, what he's sort of been bought for, either a go at that or even the National itself. He is in the National. There's a 100 to 1 chance for that in mind. The worry with backing him for win purposes is that Georgia Howell hasn't had a winner for a long time. But she's had plenty placed at big prices, including Puppet Warrior. The one horse that she's had this week was placed at Hereford at 66s. So they can place, they can run well, and they can place. So you're getting some good value out of the place part of the bet, particularly with the extra places. He'll just keep drifting. He's a 33 chance now. He'll go off bigger than that, I think. He'll end up going off 40, 50. So, he's the sort of horse to back tomorrow, probably even at SP with the extra places. Then the 3 o'clock, 2 mile, 3.5 furlong handicap hurdle, where I'm quite keen on Stolen Silver here, I think. if you look at what he was doing this time last year, you know, he beat Edwardstone, looking like stamina might be his long suit that day. You know, got up very late in the day, and then again at Newbury, you know, this time last year he was eighth to Pickdory in the Betfair, and again doing all of his best work late on, looking like 2.5 mile would suit him. All gone wrong for him over fences this year. They've pulled stumps, not surprisingly, because they want to keep his novice status. But off a mark of 140, that's now back to where we were when he beat Edwardstone, and it's £5 lower than his Betfair mark. He looks very well treated to me. 10, 11 to 1, again with the extra places. I don't think you're going to go too far wrong. As I say, it's just whether he really gets, you know, this 2.5. It may be that he's an intermediate and he wants sort of that sort of 18 furlong trip, and he can just about eke his stamina out to this. We'll see. I like him. I like his chance. I've always liked the horse, and I thought he'd make a nice chaser. It's not quite happened for him yet as a chaser. He's certainly got the size and the scope for it. But we'll see. I think, say, if you can get a double figure price, I think that's fair enough tomorrow. And then the Ascot Chase, where, you know, the more I look at the race, the more I sort of think it could be set up for Benny's King. Listen, Surname could beat this lot 10 minutes if he comes back to his best form, but you know, that's 3 out of his last 4 runs now that have been well below par. There's only really the Weatherby run where he beat Vindication that's worthwhile. The others, you know, don't mark him out as a 170 horse at all, I'm afraid to say. And perhaps the Weatherby run's been just overmarked a bit as well. The word we were getting from Harry Cobden earlier in the week is that with the cheap pieces on, they're now going to be going forward with him. What does forward mean? Does forward mean they're going from the front? Because if they're going from the front, then they've got Dashel Drasher up there to take him on. They've probably got Master Tommy Tucker as well. It could be one of these where it's sort of the 3 of them hell for leather into the first, and you might know your fate fairly early, whichever one of those 3 you're backing, I think. But Benny's King doesn't need to lead. He has led before. He's a real, you know, again, he loves Ascot. His form around here now is reading really well. Strictly on the weights and measures, he's probably got the beating of Dashel Drasher. He got beaten a length and a quarter by him last time, and he's a couple of pound better in here at level weight. So, but he's the one I think that can sit behind. He doesn't have to lead, and I think if they can be patient with Benny's King, he could be finishing off He could just be finishing off stronger than these 3. And Dan Skelton's Yard, well, I mean, they're having winners for fun, aren't they, at the moment? Again, he's sort of double figure price, 10s, worth chancing. I think he's that sort of a price. I'd be happy to sort of risk him. I like his chance here, but it's one of those races where all 5 have got some sort of a chance, and all 5 you can knock a hole in at the same time. Over at Haydock Rendlesham, when I first looked at the race again yesterday, Third Wind was an 11 to 1 chance. He's now 7s. That's too short for me now. I like the horse. Definitely more races in Third Wind. It's probably going to be a quality handicap he wins rather than a graded. He did improve a little bit strictly on the figures when he was 5th to Paisley Park in the long walk, and he beat Main Fact that day. I don't get why he's 7 and Main Fact's about 5. That I don't get. He should beat Main Fact again, because Fergus Gillard again can't claim. And Fergus Gillard, as I said, could claim when he beat Third Wind here in a handicap at the end of November. So effectively, he's almost carrying a double penalty. It's that sort of a thing. Ballyoptic, you could give Ballyoptic a chance if 3 mile and hurdles, if he's still got the speed for 3 mile and hurdles, because he's got his ground tomorrow. And again, strictly on the figures, ran really well at Warwick against Not a Chance. He finished last of the 6 finishers, but all the 5 that finished in front of him were carrying low 10 stone something, and he was humping 11 stone, 11, 10 round. So he was giving a stone and 5 more to everything in front of him. Got loads of weight to give away. And he ran all right. He ran his best race for a while. In fact, probably his best race for about a year, I would say. It's just whether 3 mile and hurdles will be his thing these days. But listen, if he keeps drifting out, you know, and the yard are going a bit better now as Nigel Twiston Davis is, they're going a bit better too. So Grand National Trial at 240, you can make a case for most of these on bits and pieces of form. Lord de Menil's obvious enough, purely on his Haydock form, which reads really well. Not a Chance was the winner of the Warwick race that we've just been talking about. Ballyoptic was 6th in. I thought he found plenty of pressure that day. I was quite impressed with Not a Chance. He's the obvious one. 2 Amigos, second to the incredibly well handicapped Secret Reprieve in the Welsh National. Perfect Candidate, well, if it starts raining in about 10 minutes and doesn't stop, then, Perfect Candidate would have a chance at Haydock because he basically wants it near unraceable. There's only about 3 races a year now that Perfect Candidate is suitable for, and this would be one of them. He just needs it near bottomless though, and the handicapper's not been kind in sticking him up £8 for that win. I know he's won 10 minutes, but nothing else went in the ground other than him that day. Achille was second to Not a Chance, got a chance at the weight, and I think he might be slightly better on better ground, but we'll see. I say it's one of these races you can give all 8 a chance. If you all 9 a chance, if you really pin me down to one, it'd probably be Lord de Menil, but I think it's a very open contest. We'll take a quick look over at Wincanton. I should mention the big hurdle, shouldn't I? I think Song for Someone probably wins. Whether that will swing them towards going to Cheltenham or not, I don't know. I did manage to speak to Tom Simons on Monday, and we were sort of talking about the horse at Warwick. I think they'll basically wait and see. They don't need to make a decision yet. Anything could happen between now and declaration time. In terms of the favourites, you've only got to step on a stone or whatever, and before you know it, you've got a problem. So I think they're going to wait and leave it as late as possible. I don't think Saturday will decide whether, even if he wins, will decide whether or not they go for the Champion Hill at that point. They've got time to discuss these things. So I do like the horse. I'm a big fan of Song for Someone. Said so at the beginning of the season. I think he's a really nice horse, but 2.5 probably is optimum trip. We'll have a quick chat about Newbury then. On Sunday, 4 races on ITV4, kicking off with a nightmare of a handicap hurdle to try and sort out over 3 mile. There's loads you can give chances to here. Bear in mind they're calling the ground good to soft at the moment, soft in places. 6.2 I think the going stick was this morning when I looked. Now the drying wind, there will be some showers blowing through. I think from the weather forecast I've seen around about sort of 5-6 mil, but whether that'll get in or not, you could end up with genuinely good to soft ground on Sunday. It's we don't have to bet now. If it keeps drying, I think Es Perfecto is very interesting here. He will get 3 mile I think on breeding. So far he's been running at sort of 2.5 and he certainly got 2.5 at Warwick, no problem. I think he'll get the 3. The second to Braidman's Game last time out at Newbury has been franked by the winner since. I think 133 is a workable mark to begin with, and he has got an Albert Bartlett entry, so they clearly think a bit of him. I like the horse. I think he'll go close here, but I do think he wants it to keep drying up. The more it dries, the better his chance. Working your way down, there's a race in Polish or Polish, whatever you want to call it, when he learns to jump. But he's jumping again at Kempton. When I fancied him, just let him down. He made a mistake at the first and constant mistakes all the way around. But there is a race in Polish off this mark when he learns to jump. Delarca's Newbury record alone, I suppose, entitles him to some respect. Everglow's been disappointing. He was another one that I fancied to run well in the Lanzarote. And the market, they couldn't give him away. He was about half the price. He ended up going off. He ended up going off 12s, and he was about half that in the morning. They didn't want to know him. And he's starting to look disappointing now to me, is Everglow, I have to say. I'm right down the bottom. If this had been 2.5 mile, not 3, then Howling Milan off mark 118 would have been very interesting. I still haven't got out of my head the fact that he would have won. He would have won here December 2019 at the end of the year when he came down at the last. He was 3 lengths clear, and I think he was holding him at the time. That was off a mark of 125. So he's up 118 here. Again, there's races to be won with him. That seemed to affect his confidence. He's never been the same horse since, really. He's never put a performance like that in again. It was all right at Bangor last time, but only all right. So, I say Es Perfecto, I think, if it keeps drying up for me. 225, the Denman. Make or break for 1 or 2 of these, I think. Particularly Lost in Translation has just not looked the same horse, and this Colin Tizard revival, well, where is it? Because they had a couple of winners, and then this week's just been as bad again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of his last 10, 4 of them have pulled up, and 3 of them have finished tailed off. Nothing's running well again. I don't see this ultimately revival. There's the odd glimmer that makes you think that it might be, but I couldn't be backing anything at Collins at 7-2 at the moment. I really couldn't. And Lost in Translation's got it all to prove now to me. Clan des Obeah's the obvious one. He could easily bounce back. Newbury form to his name, and if Kempton, the King George wasn't really run to suit him. It was run to suit Frodon. Frodon, and Bryony just basically dictated their own fractions. And rather than it turning into a sloggers contest, which it sometimes does, it didn't. It turned into a bit more of a speed contest, which suited him, which suited Frodon and didn't suit him. If you got the dead 8, you won't, unfortunately, because unless Ascot gets called off tomorrow, Dash or Drash will take the field, will be taken out and will take the field down to 7. The conditional is interesting. I've had a little bit on stupid prices for the conditional each way for the Gold Cup, because I think he's got the potential to be. He's one horse that's got the potential to outrun his mark in a Gold Cup. You've got to remember the last 2 times he's been to Cheltenham, he's won both times. He's got festival form. David Bridgewater's now sort of put him in here. This is his acid test. Which way is he going to go? Is he going to be able to cope with them? How far behind is he going to be at the finish? If he's within 4 or 5 lengths, then they've got to start thinking about having to go for the Gold Cup with him. If he's sadly beaten, then they can go back to the Ultima Foot with him, and the Grand National. But he's interested in the conditional here, because obviously he has got Newbury form as well, having been placed in the last 2. I was going to say Hennessy's, not Hennessy's, are they Ladbrokes trophies or whatever they are, Ladbrokes Silver trophies, I think, off 137 and 147. And then he ran really well against Mr. Malarkey at Ascot last time, so he keeps his form, he's consistent, he handles most ground as well, so he'll be less ground dependent than 1 or 2 of these. So I'll probably end up backing him small on the day and have a better bet 3 places on Betfair, because that might be the way to play him. And then the Game Spirit, where again we've got so many, we're going to get some questions answered here. One, where are we with Champ? Is 2 miles, is this drop back to 2 miles going to be against him? Nicky seems to think not. I'm not entirely convinced myself that this is the right thing to do, because if they go quicker here, he'll end up having just as hard a race as he would have done if they'd gone slower over 3 mile, in my opinion. So, and they could, there is potential for them to go a reasonable pace here. I think Magic Saint's probably going to give it a go from the front. I don't think he's good enough. Dolos did well at Sandown, giving weight to Moonlighter, and he only just got beat. That was his best run for the best part of the year and more. But again, is he really good enough? Granatine is the obvious one after, he's the one that stepped up a little bit this season. Second to Politologue in the Tingle Creek was his best effort to date. He's going the right way. He's probably the one to beat. But we have got Fanny and Destroval in here, and I was keen on him at the beginning of the season as a horse that could potentially blow his mark out of the water and improve through to graded level, and he's improved with each of his last 3 runs. He would have been 4 if he'd stood up, I think, at Cheltenham. But he only got beaten 9 lengths by First Flow at Ascot. He finished alongside Waiting Patiently, and he was 2 lengths behind Politologue. That was another step up. And this is his test. Has he got the speed for 2 miles, or will they be stepping him up to the Ryanair? We now know he is a graded animal. I think that's now proven. He's better than a handicapper. It's just how good he is, and we're going to find out a bit more on Sunday with Fanny and Destroval. Say I'm on at fancy prices for the Champion Chase. I think I've probably got the wrong race. I think he'll probably end up going for the Ryanair. We will see on Sunday, but a good run from him would not surprise. And finally, Betfair Hurdle, where again, how many of these do you want to make a case for? You can make cases for plenty. I could sit here and talk about this race for half an hour on its own. I do think if you're looking for something solid each way, because you're going to get sort of 6 places here, I would guess, you don't have to look any further than Buzz, really, do you? Who has been rock solid this year. Each of his 3 runs has improved a little bit from his Welsh Champion Hurdle 3rd to So Royal. Then he came out and thrashed him at Ascot, and then ran really well. Excuse me, giving weight to Not So Sleepy at Ascot. He was giving him a couple of pounds, giving him £6, and got beaten a length and a quarter by him. He seems less ground dependent than I thought he was going to be. I thought he probably want good ground, so the fact that it's good to soft at the moment is probably ideal for him. He has speed, he travels really well, he hurdles well, and it's not hard to see him bang there at the last. It may be that something is better handicapped a bit further down, but I don't think you'll kick him out of the 6. I really don't. Kevin Brogan taking a useful 5 off of all. useful 5 off. Kevin Brown, an ideal jockey, I think, for this sort of horse that will travel, because he can just sort of let him do his own thing and then try and bring him there after the last. I think he's got a really good each way chance. Of the rest, of the novices, Kadzan's obvious enough. Markham 138 probably still underestimates him. Similarly, Sheikh Mopari, he was second to Metier at Sandown in the Tolworth. Looked a little bit one pace. I thought he was ready to go for a step back up in trip. Sheikh Mopari. I think he'll be more interest over sort of 2-2, 2-4. Annual Invictus has proven himself already over 2-4. Having made all at Plumpton last time out, he's an improving sort as well. There's plenty in here you can give chances to. As I say, it's that sort of a race. I think at the moment my each way bet without a shadow of a doubt will be Buzz, and I may well back annual Invictus on the day if a bit more rain comes, because I think his stamina might come into play then. There we go. Listen, have a great weekend. I'll keep putting the Cheltenham articles up on the Daily Punt. I hope you're all enjoying them and you find them of some use. And I'll try and do a few more videos as we get nearer to Cheltenham. About 3 weeks to go. Exciting stuff. Cheers, guys. Bye bye.